Aloha, friends and family. I'm staring into the sun through a veil of thin, high clouds. Well, I'm staring into the sun with my eyes closed. It's a really good way to charge up. And I've got the shirt off so I can catch some rays. It does charge the body. It does make you feel good. Can't overdo though. But let's let's talk today and try to get into deeper understanding of what the first and second attention are. I think the first and foremost thing to understand about this topic, and this specifically, is that it eludes language. So we're going to talk about something that really can't be talked about using language, or seemingly that's how it would be. So maybe we're expanding our understanding of language at this point in human evolvement. Human conscious evolvement, having nothing to do so much with physicality. Which gets us right into the first attention. What is the first attention? How does this work? The first attention is agreement, or a collective consent. And another thing I want to say before I go on with that is I don't ever want anybody to believe anything I'm saying. Don't ever believe anything I'm saying. I would add to that, you can know what I'm saying, and that's the only way to know, is to know. So you have to know. But sometimes I think belief helps us get to the knowing. So back to this first attention, collective agreement. I stick my hand in the fire and I burn it. And I say, man, the fire's hot. You don't know that until you stick your hand in the fire and burn it, and then you know it's hot now. Now, you and I can come to an agreement that fire is hot, and we can spread that knowledge to other people so that they then don't have to burn their hand to come to understand that fire is hot. So we do this over and over and over and over and over for many thousands of years, creating and modifying language as we go. And everyone in this circle of power, we shall say, in the first attention, the circle of the power of the first attention is a collective agreement about 3D. What is real in 3D? What is true in 3D? And a lot of it is true and accurate. That's a better word. A lot of that is accurate, but a lot of it is inaccurate. And in our present state of consciousness, there's been a grandiose manipulation of this whole subject so that you never even get this close to it. You're not supposed to hear stuff like this. It's not common. It's occulted. It's occulted knowledge. And since they've painted their imagery of cult, see, occult and cult are different. And then again, it all comes back to definitions, doesn't it? So you might think, when you think occult, you think something evil. But I'm not talking about cult. That's evil. To me, that's evil. Or that would be something that could be termed evil. See, again, is there really good and evil? And the and the way that we have been made to think of it. When all that we're seeing in the we're in the circle of power of 3D consciousness, third density, first attention consciousness, collective agreement. We've got to realize we've been in this bubble and get out of it, extricate yourself from it. And this is the bridge. This is the way that it's like a hidden back door almost. You know, you go out the front door and you just fall into an abyss and you start all over. So it's a big trick. Anybody afraid enough to go running out the front door is just going to fall into an abyss. But if you lay back and observe and think it through and really connect with Source, you come to find out there's a back door that you can slip out of. Okay, so we want to slip out of the ring of power of the first attention into the second attention. The second attention is the consciousness of your etheric portion. The second attention is the consciousness of your etheric self, etheric portion that sees everything that is unknown to what your avatar sees and what your mind knows. And it sees all of that before you see with your eyes what happens in this realm. And then all you have to go back on is memory. Memory. This just happened. This just happened. This just happened. This just happened. And I can recollect any of that. But can you recollect anything to the other side, the other direction? Well, you can't. But your etheric self does. But we have not had no attention placed in that realm of thought until now. Finally, we're starting to do it again. It's a wonderful thing. It's going to allow many to slip out that back door. But being able to move, and this is the assemblage point, being able to move the assemblage point in that kind of a way, and master holding it, and at some point, hopefully, merging both to where you can simultaneously think and perceive with both attentions, one here in the third dimension and the one there in the all dimension. There's the known and the unknown. Everything you know or think you know, everything that we as humans think we know, and we all only seem to know about, again, 3D. 3D. Taste, touch, smell, senses. Which is, I'm not downplaying it, it's important as heck. It has to do with intention, not just your intention or my intention, but the intention of the Creator, the intention of Source, which gets into knowing itself. I mean, the whole thing from top to bottom is knowing thyself, knowing ourselves. And being completely, at one with where we are as whatever self it is. Turtle has no pressure on it to be a rabbit. A turtle feels no pressure at any time to try to be a rabbit. It's perfectly happy as a turtle. It's one with its turtleness. And it just is happy as could be being a happy turtle. Same holds true for the rabbit. And I would say, to some degree, we have humans that are different in those kinds of ways. And we should have no pressure from other humans to be in some collective type of anything, really. Because that's the equivalent of trying to make turtles be rabbits. Turtles will never be good rabbits. They're not meant to be rabbits. They weren't created as rabbits. So as far as our framework is concerned, it's perfect. You're perfect in your framework. Some of the structure, perhaps, some of the decorations, perhaps, some of the exterior facade parts, maybe those could be fixed up. But as far as your framework goes, it's perfect. And you be happy in the knowing, just like the same way that the turtle is, and the rabbit is, and the deer is, and the flower is, and the tree is. None of these things have some sort of human pressure, psychological, intellectual pressure upon them to be something other than what they are. And nor should you. But getting to that place of knowing who we are, that's quite the journey. And you have to be dedicated, you have to be disciplined, you have to embark into things that you didn't necessarily want to embark into, because at the time you didn't even know they existed. You didn't even know this was going to be required. Because you can only go so far with this until you hit those blocks. And they're our own, deficiencies. They're our own, usually, beliefs. It's almost always having to do with beliefs. Because I'm unwilling to stop believing this thing that I believe, whatever it is. You can't go any further with consciousness. You're going to have to reconcile that, transmute that. It might be a karmic cycle. You might be in some karmic cycle where you do this over and over and over and over. And it's not like it's some heinous thing, but could that be the thing holding us back, from the next, knocking down the next blockade? Fully making the way clear. And then, how far do you really want to go? Because the further you get, man, the more you see, the more you realize you don't see. The more you know, when you truly know, not when you think you know, but when you truly know, that knowing, the more of that you have, the more you realize you don't know, because you get closer and closer and closer to that island of the known, what is known. comparatively to what is unknown. And the known is such a tiny island of knowledge from a human perspective, especially a 3D locked in the ring of power of collective consent. See, you got to really go thoroughly through the whole language thing and that whole aspect, and then the definitions and what I've talked about with this. It's critical to realize that all that. So you can have communication between your avatar mind and your etheric mind, consciousness of the etheric portion. Again, the one that sees the known and the unknown at the same time. There is a portion of us that sees the unknown and the known at the same time. So it sees ahead of what's happening in what we call real time here in 3D. We're only seeing in real time. Well, I don't mean only as that's all, but I mean that's all. That's it. That's a lot, but that's what it is. We're seeing the known as it's manifesting in real time. Our other portion sees the unknown at the same time. Again, I know I'm bashing this. It's just so, it's amazing to realize it, because then you can extrapolate out from that to realize other things. And it's amazing. It's amazing what we have been, you have the power to do. We have the power to do so much more. And I mean in all aspects, having to do with the 3D, having to do with the spiritual, having to do with changes you could see with your senses and know with your senses, and changes that you can only perceive with your etheric self. Can you imagine how humans could function and operate if everybody was, aware of it? It's so beautiful. Perfect, really. So I guess to close this one out is just to remind us that presently in this 3D realm, we're being constantly reminded of a narrative. And this narrative has many different nodes that also broadcast this narrative, even though it may be completely unrelated seemingly and different seemingly. It's all related. And as long as you're locked into that collective ring of power of collective consent. You're co-creating that world, that reality, that experience, and it will never seemingly change until we change. We are the ones that change it by changing, because all is self. That's beyond what the avatar's mind is capable of comprehending and understanding. That does not seem possible to the avatar's mind. But see, we're dealing with the impossible becoming possible, because nothing is impossible. Again, it's belief. It's only impossible to you because you have been conditioned to believe that there are things that are impossible. There is nothing that is impossible. It may be impossible to NPCs. Yes, it's totally impossible for an NPC. Totally. But if you're not an NPC, then nothing is impossible to you. Now, can you do it? Well, you have to condition yourself. You have to work with yourself. Again, you have to knock down those blockades and make your way there, you know. It's a step. There's steps. There's levels. And it always feels great to be growing, doesn't it? Because it never feels good to feel like you're stagnated, or to, even worse, you know, feel like you're dying. Feel like you're decaying. Feel like you're in stasis even. What feels the best? Growth feels the best. I think the plants are happiest when they're growing and making their flowers, you know, and showing how happy they are by making the flowers. Are we growing? Are we making flowers? My Chihuahua's boo-hooing. She got to come out here with Daddy. She can't stand it. So, love and light, everybody. Hope that helps. Well, I know that'll help. I know it'll help. It's just a matter of, do we want the help? There's many people that just don't want to know anything like this. It's too complicated for them. It's too, why worry about it? You know, it's just sort of party time perpetually. But, okay, maybe when you're young, do that for a little while, but that shit's going to get old and you're going to realize it's just a big cycle of nothingness. Because you don't even know why you're here. I mean, if you have no idea why you're here, why you're manifested, why this world is manifesting, why everything's happening the way it's happening, why your life plays out the way that it plays out, all those can be answered by you. But if you don't care about the answers, or you don't want to know the answers, then you're going to be an NPC. You're just going to cycle. Perpetually cycle. And again, let's beat it into the ground, the circle of power, of collective consent. So you've agreed to go into that world and participate every second in it and devote all energy and attention to it. Is that what you want? Is that what you really want? Or is there so much more? And when we intend to know what that so much more is, you get on a journey, man, that takes you, it takes you places. All right. See you in the next one.